I discover my parents paid for everyone's college except mine, so I cut them off completely. My dad is standing at the end of the restaurant table with a wine glass raised, smiling like he's about to accept an award, and my cousin Tessa is crying in her napkin because he just announced, loudly, proudly, that he and my mom handled the rest of her tuition so she can start her life without debt. Everyone claps. My aunt lets out this relieved little laugh. Tessa keeps saying, "I don't even know what to say," and my mom reaches over to squeeze her hand like she's some saint. I'm sitting there with my fork still in my hand, halfway to my mouth, frozen. The room is warm and loud, and full of people I've known my whole life, and I swear I can hear the blood rushing in my ears more than the applause. My stomach drops, so fast it feels like I missed a step. "You what?" I say, and it's not even a question at first. It's just a sound that slips out because my brain is trying to catch up. My dad's smile falters for a split second, just enough for me to know he heard me. I push my chair back, and it scrapes the floor hard enough that heads turn from other tables. My mom's eyes snap to mine, warning first, then irritation. "Not now," she mouths, still smiling at everyone else like she's posing for a photo. My dad sets his glass down slowly, still playing host, still try to keep the tone light. "What's wrong?" he asks, like I'm the one disrupting something wholesome. I can feel heat crawling up my neck. My hands are shaking under the table, so I bring them up and grip the edge of the linen so I don't spill anything. "You pay for her tuition," I say again, louder, and this time it lands. The clapping fades out awkwardly. Someone clears their throat. Tessa's crying slows, and she looks between me and my parents like she just realized she's in the middle of something she didn't sign up for. My mom leans toward me, voice tight but sweet. "Honey," she says, "we're celebrating. Please don't do this." My dad's jaw tightens, and I see it. The flicker of annoyance he always gets right before he decides I'm being dramatic. "We can talk later," he says. I shake my head. "No," I say, and my voice cracks on the word. "We're talking now." It was a Tuesday night when I was 17, and my parents told me they couldn't help with college. Not even a little. I remember because it was the same night my best friend, Hannah, texted me a photo of her parents in their kitchen holding up a stupid "congrats" sign, and she wrote, "They're helping me with housing." I was at our dining room table with printed applications spread out, scholarships, admissions, financial aid forms, trying to make my future look like something I could afford. My dad came in from the garage, smelling like oil and cold air, glanced at the papers, and sighed like I'd left a mess on his clean floor. My mom stood behind him, arms crossed, already braced. "We need to be clear," my dad said, tapping the table with 2 fingers. "We're not paying for college. We can't." He said it like it was a fact of nature, like gravity, like if I argued, I was arguing with physics. My mom added, "You can do community college. Plenty of people do. You can work. It builds character." I stared at them, trying to keep my face neutral, because I'd learned young that if I looked too sad, my dad would accuse me of manipulating him. "Okay," I said, because what else do you say when the 2 people who are supposed to have your back are already done talking? The thing is, I believe them. I didn't like it, but I believe them. My parents weren't flashy with money. We lived in a nice enough house, but my dad loved to talk about bills like they were crushing us. He'd stand in the kitchen holding an envelope and say things like, "Do you know how expensive it is to keep this family running?" He'd sigh dramatically at the grocery receipt. He'd lecture me about wasting electricity if I left the light on. I grew up thinking we were one emergency away from disaster because my parents wanted me to feel like asking for anything was selfish. So I adjusted. I applied to schools close enough that I could commute. I worked weekends at a grocery store and picked up shifts whenever someone called out. I babysat. I sold old clothes online. I applied for scholarships until my eyes hurt from staring at essay prompts. I got some. Not enough. I took out loans anyway because I didn't have another option. I signed paperwork that felt like signing my name to a decade of stress. I remember sitting in the financial aid office, the woman explaining interest rates, and me nodding like I understood, even though my chest was tight and my hands were damp. When I told my parents I'd figured it out, my dad patted my shoulder like I'd finally proven I wasn't completely useless. "So," he said, "you can do it without us." I moved into a tiny apartment with 2 roommates my sophomore year, because commuting plus working was killing me. My parents acted like I'd moved to another country. My mom cried in the driveway, but it wasn't the kind of crying that says I'll miss you. It was the kind that says, how could you do this to me? My dad stood behind her, arms crossed, looking satisfied. Life's hard, he said. Now you'll learn. I learned. I learned how to stretch groceries. I learned how to walk past the campus cafe, because $7 for coffee was insane. I learned how to smile through group projects when my brain was foggy from working late. I learned how to sit in class with my stomach growling and still take notes. I learned how to pretend I wasn't jealous when friends' parents showed up with boxes of snacks and new sheets and took them out to dinner. I learned how to say, no, my parents can't help, like it was no big deal. And every time I went home, my parents would make little comments that kept me in my place. My dad would look around my car and say, still driving that thing? Must be nice to be broke and young. My mom would ask, are you sure you're not taking on too much debt? In this tone that implied the debt was my personal moral failing, not the result of them refusing to support me. If I ever got frustrated, my dad would lean back and say, don't start. You chose this. The first time I noticed the hypocrisy, it was small enough that I tried to talk myself out of it. My brother Evan is 3 years younger than me. When he graduated high school, my parents threw him a party with balloons and a cake and one of those big poster boards full of photos. At the party, my mom kept gushing about how proud they were of him and how excited they were for his future. And then, in the kitchen while everyone was eating, I overheard my dad saying to my uncle, we'll cover his dorm. He needs the full experience. I remember standing there with a paper plate in my hand, frozen again, just like at the restaurant years later. Cover his dorm. The full experience. My brain did this panicked math. If they can cover his dorm, they could have covered anything for me. Even a little. Even one semester. Even books. When I confronted my mom later, quietly, in the hallway, she gave me a look like I'd said something inappropriate. Evan's situation is different, she said. Ow, I asked. He's more focused, she said, and she didn't meet my eyes. He needs structure. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. So I didn't. I asked. My mom sighed. You're always looking for a fight, she said. This is why things are hard with you. That became the pattern. Every time I noticed something unfair, the conversation turned into me being the problem. My tone, my attitude, my resentment. My dad would call me ungrateful. My mom would cry and say I was tearing the family apart. Meanwhile, Evan got help without having to ask. My parents framed it as support, not charity, because supporting him made them feel like good parents. Supporting me, apparently, would have been enabling. Still, even with that, I didn't know the full extent. I didn't know it wasn't just Evan. I didn't know it was everyone. The reason I found out was because my parents love an audience. They love being seen as generous. They love being the kind of people who step in. That night at the restaurant was a family dinner to celebrate Tessa's graduation. She's my aunt's daughter, my mom's sister's kid. Tessa is sweet, a little naive, the kind of person who says thank you for everything. She'd been stressing about money for months, and my aunt had been doing this whole performance about how hard it is to have a kid in college, how expensive everything is, how we're barely making it. I nodded along because I know what it's like to hear adults talk about money like a storm cloud you can't escape. Then my dad stood up and announced that he and my mom had paid the remainder of Tessa's tuition. Like it was nothing. Like it was a joyful surprise. Like they just wanted to help her start out right. And something in my chest snapped clean in half. After I said, we're talking now, my dad's face went stiff and controlled. Okay, he said, too calm. What exactly is your issue? My issue, I said, and my voice was shaking so hard I hated it, is that you told me you couldn't pay for my college. You told me it was impossible. You told me to take out loans and work and figure it out. But you can pay for Evan. And now you can pay for Tessa. I looked around the table, my aunt, my uncle, my cousins, watching like they were at a show. My throat burned. So which part was the lie? I asked. That you couldn't afford it? Or that I didn't deserve it? My mom's cheeks flushed. This is not the place, she hissed. My dad's voice dropped. Don't embarrass us, he said, and the threat in it was familiar. Like I was about to be punished for making them look bad. You embarrassed me for years, I said, and I felt the words coming out fast now, like a dam breaking. Do you know what it felt like to sit in the financial aid office alone? To cry in my car because I couldn't afford textbooks? To work doubles and then come home and get lectured about how I should be grateful you gave me food as a kid? Do you know what it felt like when you told me you chose this while you were paying for Evan's dorm? Tessa's eyes were huge. My aunt looked like she wanted to disappear under the table. My uncle's face tightened like he was trying to decide who to be mad at. My mom opened her mouth, closed it, then said, "We didn't pay for you because you were determined to do it your way." What does that even mean? I asked. My dad leaned forward, palms on the table, the way he does when he wants to take control. You left, he said. You moved out. You stopped listening. You acted like you didn't need us, so we let you handle it. I stared at him, stunned by how casually he said it. I moved out because you made it clear I was a burden, I said. You told me you couldn't help. You told me to figure it out. My mom's eyes filled with tears, and for a second I almost faltered because some part of me still reacts to her crying like it's an emergency I have to fix. Then she said, "We were trying to teach you responsibility." My hands clenched into fists on my lap. By lying? I asked. By letting me drown in debt while you quietly paid for everyone else? My dad's mouth twisted. You're always so dramatic, he said, and there it was. The same label he'd used my whole life whenever I called something unfair. Dramatic, crazy, difficult. It's not like we abandoned you. I laughed, one short sound that surprised even me because it wasn't funny. No, I said, you just decided I was the one kid who needed to suffer to become a good person, while everyone else got support. My mom wiped her face, tried to regain composure because people were watching. We help with your groceries sometimes, she said quickly, like she was building a defense. And your phone bill. You pay my phone bill until I was 19, I said. And then you told me to be grateful like you were funding my life. Meanwhile, I've been paying interest on loans that could have been smaller if you'd done for me what you just did for Tessa. My dad's voice went hard. So what do you want? He snapped. A check right now? Is that what this is? It was such a perfect move, turning my pain into greed, that I felt something inside me go very still. I looked at him and realized, in that moment, that I could never explain myself in a way that would make him see me. He didn't want to understand. Understanding would require admitting he'd hurt me on purpose. I don't want your money, I said quietly. I wanted the truth. Years ago, I wanted you to be honest. I want to know why I was the only one you let struggle. My mom's voice broke. Because you were so angry all the time, she whispered. I was angry because you treated me like I was unlovable unless I performed gratitude. I said, I was angry because I was 17 and you told me you couldn't help me, and then I watched you help everyone else. No one spoke for a few seconds. The restaurant noise filled the gaps, glasses clinking, a waiter laughing at another table, someone's chair scraping. My aunt stared down at her plate. Tessa looked like she might cry again, but now it wasn't gratitude. It was discomfort. Evan wasn't there, thank God, but I could already picture him later saying, "Why are you so obsessed with the past?" My dad exhaled sharply, like he was done. "You want to act like a victim," he said. "Fine. But don't pretend we didn't give you a good life. We put a roof over your head. We fed you. You did the bare minimum," I said, and my voice was calm in a way that felt almost alien. "And you used it like leverage. You made sure I knew I owed you for being born." My mom made a small sound like a protest. "That's not fair," she said. I nodded slowly. "It's exactly fair," I said. "And I'm done." I stood up, grabbed my coat, and my hand shook so hard I fumbled with the sleeve. My dad said my name sharply, like a command, but I didn't stop. My mom whispered, "Please," and for a second my feet hesitated because the old training kicked in. Don't cause a scene. Don't make mom cry. Don't be the reason the family feels tense. Then I thought about the nights I'd sat on my bedroom floor, staring at my loan balance, feeling sick with panic, and I kept walking. In the parking lot, the cold air hit my face, and I sucked in a breath that tasted like exhaust and winter. I stood by my car with my keys in my hand, and my whole body trembling, not from the cold, but from adrenaline. My phone buzzed immediately, my mom calling. Then again, my dad. Then a text from my aunt. Please don't do this here. Then another from Tessa. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I sat in my car and stared at the steering wheel until my vision blurred. My hand was shaking so hard I had to put the keys in the ignition twice. Part of me wanted to drive back inside and apologize just to stop the buzzing in my chest. Another part of me, the part that had been quietly building for years, felt like if I apologized, I would die a little. So I did something I'd never done before. I turned my phone off. The next day, the guilt came in waves like nausea. I kept reaching for my phone, turning it on, seeing the pile of missed calls and messages, and turning it off again. When I finally listened to my mom's voicemail, her voice was high and tearful. I don't know what's gotten into you, she said. You ruined Tessa's night. Your father is devastated. We don't deserve this. Call me back. Not a single I'm sorry. Not a single we messed up. Just you ruined it. You did this. You're the problem. My dad's voicemail was worse. If you want to act like we abused you, go ahead, he said. But don't come crawling back when life gets hard. That line, don't come crawling back, was something he'd said to me in different forms my whole life. Like love was a service you earned by being convenient. I didn't call back. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table in my apartment and wrote a message I revised 20 times because I kept trying to soften it out of habit. I kept wanting to add, I love you, to make it easier for them. Every time I tried, my stomach clenched. Finally, I sent this. I'm not discussing this anymore. You lied to me for years and then tried to make me feel crazy for noticing. I'm taking space. Do not contact me. If you show up at my home or work, I will not engage. Then I blocked their numbers. My mom, my dad, my aunt. I left Tessa unblocked because she hadn't done anything except be the newest recipient of their generosity, but I muted her because even her apologies made my chest tight. The first week was awful, not because I missed them as people, but because my nervous system didn't know what to do without the constant low-level fear of upsetting them. I kept expecting my dad to show up at my door. I kept expecting my mom to call from a new number. I jumped every time someone knocked. I cried in the shower where I couldn't hear myself. The second week, my brother Evan called from his number, which I hadn't blocked because I was stupidly hopeful he'd be different. What the hell is wrong with you? He said without greeting. Mom's a wreck. I'm not talking about this, I said, and my voice shook. You humiliated them, he snapped. Over money. It's not over money, I said. It's over lying. It's over treating me like I didn't matter. Evan sighed like I was exhausting. You always take everything personally, he said. They were trying to teach you independence. Look at you now. You're fine. I felt my hands clench around the phone. I'm fine because I had to be, I said. And you don't get to use my survival as proof they did the right thing. There was a pause. Then Evan said, so you're just cutting them off forever? Yes, I said, and the word came out sharper than I expected. Then, because I couldn't help myself, I added, unless they can admit what they did and apologize. Evan snorted. Good luck, he said, and hung up. That was the moment I realized the family system was built to protect my parents, not to protect truth. Evan needed to believe my parents were good because it benefited him. He got the dorm. He got the safety net. He got the version of them that felt warm. If he admitted they were cruel to me, he'd have to face what that says about him accepting their help. It was easier to call me dramatic. So I blocked him too. Cutting them off wasn't one clean act. It was 100 small acts that felt like ripping threads out of my skin. Changing my emergency contact at work. Updating my bank info because my mom still had access to an old account from when I was a teenager. Locking down my social media. Telling my manager, awkwardly, if someone calls pretending to be my parent, don't transfer them. I felt paranoid, but every time I hesitated, I remembered how my dad looked at me in that restaurant when I challenged his image. Not sad, not guilty. Angry that I dared. About a month in, my mom showed up anyway. I saw her car from my window, and my stomach dropped so hard I had to sit down. She knocked like she owned the door. I didn't answer. She knocked again, harder. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't pick up. My mom left a note under the door like I was a child. We can talk like adults. Don't do this to your family. I stared at the paper for a long time. The audacity of like adults when they'd spent years treating me like a lesson. I tore it up slowly and threw it away, and I cried afterward, not because I regretted it, but because grief is weird. You grieve people who are alive when you finally accept they won't change. The hardest part wasn't missing them. It was missing the fantasy that one day they'd look at me and say, "We see you. We're sorry. We didn't realize." Because some part of me had carried that hope like a talisman. Cutting them off meant dropping it. I started therapy because I was waking up with my jaw clenched and my heart racing like I'd been running. The therapist asked me what I felt when I thought about my parents, and I said, "Anger," automatically. She nodded and asked, "And underneath?" I sat there, staring at the carpet, and my throat tightened. Shame, I admitted. Like there must be a reason they didn't help me. Like I deserved it. Saying that out loud made me feel sick because it sounded so pathetic. But it was true. When your parents single you out, you don't just get mad. You internalize it. You start building theories about why you were the one who didn't earn love. Therapy didn't make me suddenly healed. It just gave me language. It helped me see the pattern. My parents didn't refuse to pay for my college because they couldn't. They refused because controlling me mattered more than supporting me. They wanted me dependent enough to obey, but independent enough to struggle quietly. They wanted the moral high ground. Look how tough love made her strong, without taking responsibility for the pain. 6 months after the restaurant, Tessa messaged me again. This time her message was longer, hesitant. She said she found out more. She said my aunt had mentioned my parents helped with a few other kids too, and she realized I was the exception. She said she felt guilty every time she thought about it. She asked if she should give the money back. I stared at her message for a long time. I believed she meant it. I also knew giving the money back wouldn't fix anything. My parents would just spin it into another story about how I poisoned her against them. I wrote back, "You didn't do anything wrong. You were offered help and you took it. That's normal. The problem isn't you. The problem is that they lied to me and made me feel crazy for years. Don't carry my pain for them." Tessa replied with a simple, "Thank you. I am sorry." Then she went quiet, and I honestly hoped she found a way to have a relationship with them that doesn't eat her alive. But I couldn't be the person who stayed in the room and smiled while being erased. A year passed, then another. My loan balance dropped slowly. My life got quieter in a way that felt unfamiliar at first. Holidays were weird. I spent my first Christmas without them eating takeout with 2 friends who also didn't go home for complicated reasons. We played a dumb card game and laughed too loud. I went to bed that night and cried anyway. Not because I wanted my parents back, but because the absence of what should have been still hurts. Every once in a while, a new number would call. A voicemail would appear from someone I didn't recognize. It's Mom. "Please, just listen." I didn't. Not because I'm cold. Because every time I opened that door, even a crack, I could feel the old roles rushing back to fill the space. Me explaining. Me apologizing. Me shrinking. Them refusing to acknowledge anything except how my boundaries inconvenienced them. The last message I got from my dad came through an email he must have dug up from somewhere. It was short. Like him, "You think you're punishing us. You're only punishing yourself. Family is all you have." I read it twice, then closed my laptop and sat in silence until my breathing slowed. "Family is all you have." He said it like a threat, like loneliness is a weapon he gets to wield. The sad thing is he's wrong. Family isn't all I have. I have friends who don't make love conditional. I have colleagues who respect me. I have a partner now who doesn't treat support like leverage. I have a life that doesn't require me to audition for basic decency. Cutting them off didn't make me instantly happy. It made me honest. It made me stop pretending the relationship was complicated when it was actually damaging. It made me stop chasing a version of them that only existed when they wanted to look good in public. Sometimes, late at night, I still replay the restaurant scene. The way my dad's face tightened. The way my mom tried to hush me while smiling at everyone else. The way the table went quiet. The way my throat burned when I asked, which part was the lie? And I think about how easy it would have been for them to say, "We're sorry. We handled it badly. We were wrong. We hurt you." They never said it. Not once. So I chose myself. I chose the version of adulthood where I don't have to keep swallowing my pain to protect other people's pride. I chose the version where my worth isn't measured by how convenient I am to my parents' image. I didn't cut them off because they didn't pay for my college. I cut them off because they paid for everyone else's and expected me to smile through the message that's sent. You're the one we can deny and still sleep at night. And I'm done being that person.